Hello. Today we are discussing abortion or medical assisted termination of a would-be person. So, in this, we will be discussing a lot of things, and we will also try to understand that whether abortion should be made legal or it should not be made legal in any country's code or in any country's legal code. Here are the things which we will deliberate upon. Now, according to WordWeb, which you can find very easily on the internet, there are around 4 to 5 meanings of abortion which are expressed. The first meaning says that a deliberate termination of pregnancy. So, this is the first understanding of the word abortion. The second meaning, which is associated with medicine, is the cessation of pregnancy or fetal development, or it can be a miscarriage. The third is basically a failure of a plan, that means to abort something, right? Fourth, in biology, it is said that an early stop to the development of an organ so that it is not fully formed or is absorbed. So this is another understanding. And the fifth is something ugly or badly made, a useless failure. Now, why I'm giving you all these meanings or all these understandings and explanations is precisely because there is something associated with abortion which we usually do not like, or this topic is deliberated and debated a lot in a lot of schemes and a lot of arenas and so on. And what is the problem with abortion is something which we are trying to develop today. So let's go further. The Merriam-Webster dictionary says that the termination of a pregnancy after accompanied by resulting in or closely followed by the death of the embryo or fetus, like a spontaneous expulsion of human fetus during the first 12 weeks of gestation or induced expulsion of human fetus. So these are also certain ways in which abortion or the terminology abortion is understood. Now, if we go for a working definition for this presentation and for this course, we will say that it is a medical or doctor assisted termination of pregnancy. We should refrain ourselves from saying it is a killing of an would-be individual. We should also refrain ourselves from saying that it is just an abortion, because what we are referring to right now is basically a medical assisted termination of pregnancy, and there can be a lot of issues related to that. So let us first try to understand that what are the reasons of abortion. Usually across world you will find that a lot of people will like to go for abortion or this medical termination of pregnancy. So, what are the reasons? The first reason is that it is a conception which is outside marriage, and there are a lot of societal issues which are associated with it. So, people live in society and they go by societal norms. So, it is still not very well. mm, Welcome. It's not a welcome proposal that if you are giving birth to a baby without marriage. So, since it is outside the marriage, so people will like to abort. The second reason, which is usually given by a lot of people who are in the working uh, fields or people who are working in some companies or something, that it is an interference with career goals, or sometimes they are attending a school or college or university, and it is stopping them to pursue their education goals or academic goals. So this is also one of the reasons that people will like to go for abortion. The third thing can be the non-readiness of the body. That means the body is not well developed to give birth to a baby, and therefore they will not like to give birth to a baby. So especially it happens to a teenager, because teenage is not very fit or suitable for giving birth to a baby, and many a times people's body, even if they are not teens, but their body is not good enough or is not strong enough to give birth to a baby. So that is also one of the reasons which is cited for going for abortion. Then also there are financial issues. There can be unemployment or underemployment of a person. The person is not able to support his or her family, and the extension of a family is out of bounds, or there cannot uh, even a way to think about it. So, given that also, they will like to go for abortion. So, this is another reason which is cited. Then sometimes people say that I have just completed childbearing, or that the first baby of mine or second baby of mine is just or is still lactating and it's very young, and I cannot go and give birth to another baby when I'm pregnant. So, given that understanding, they will say that since I'm very close to childbearing and I've just completed childbearing, so thinking about another baby is an absolute absurdity, and I will not like to go for it. Then there are many times cases of rapes, and because of that, it is an unintended pregnancy, right? So, uh, being raped and conceived and then giving birth to that baby is having a lot of problems, and people will not like to go for it. So they will also say that this is one of the reasons that I would not like to give birth to a baby. And then there are sometimes single parenthood or relationship issues. So people will say that I'm single parent and I'm not ready to give birth to a baby, or my husband or my boyfriend doesn't want to have a baby right now. And there are a lot of relationship issues. We are not in a very stable relationship, and we may not be able to continue also in this relationship. So why to have a baby together? So that is also reasons which is given. Then there are a lot of other reasons for unintended pregnancies, and people do not want to have a baby, but they have conceived. So in those cases, so there can be an umbrella term for that. That is unintended pregnancy. It can be because of a lot of reasons. Like one of the reasons is failed contraception. So because of failed contraceptions, many a times people use both the men as well as the uh, lady use contraceptions, but still they are unable to avoid pregnancy. And even if they have taken care and they were very vigilant that they should not get pregnant, but it has not happened and somebody got pregnant. So because of that also, people will like to go for abortion. Then sometimes people have medical issues or some complications develop, and because of that, they have to go for abortion. So that is also one of the reasons. Then in our country, we have banned sex determination. But beforehand, it used to happen that if you have a preference for a certain gender and your expected baby is of some other gender, so people used to go for abortion. In India, mostly it used to uh, result in female feticide, right? So that was another reason that, and still, and today also it happens many a times that people go on to get or get the information that what is going to be the gender of their next baby or their first baby, and they do not want that, and because of that, they will like to go for abortion. Then there are also other complexities and intricacies associated with abortion. Like suppose somebody has adopted a child and then they are also expecting their own child. So they know that this can create a lot of complications. Or they have planned to adopt and then they are pregnant, or they are somebody is pregnant, but they do not want to have a baby of their own, rather than they would like to adopt, or they have some social issues related to that, or some social responsibilities, or some welfare responsibilities also people take up. They have very different ideologies, and because of that also, people may like to go for abortion. Then sometimes what happens is that beforehand they want a baby. They are planning to have a baby, but later on, as soon as they conceive or after some point of the time, they think, no, I do not want to have a baby. So in that case also, mm, people can people develop different point of views, and people may change their point of views, right? So at one point of the time they were planning to have a baby, but later on, once they have conceived, they think that they don't want to have a baby. So given that also, many a times people say that I will not like to have a baby of my own, and they go for abortion. And last is that they do not state the reason. Many a times, one of the reasons of not stating the reason is that they do not want to talk about their sex life, or they do not want to say that they had sex. And if they had sex, there is no proof of having sex. So the only proof can be having a baby, right? So in that case, also, many a times people say that, okay, we would like to and we will not open this relationship after the society that we had sex or something like that. So in those cases also, they will like to go for abortion. Now, if you see the whole of the abortion debate, it is divided into two parts: the pro-life people and the pro-choice people. So people say that either you are a pro-life person or a pro-choice person. What is a pro-life argument, or what are those people who are called pro-life? So pro-life people say that it is a cold-blooded murder of a child which is yet to come out of its mother's womb, right? So it very clearly says that we want the baby, irrespective of the fact, whatever happens. So a baby is a baby, and does not matter what. It's a life. It's a human form, and we need to respect that. And that person has all the right to come to this world. On the other hand, the pro-choice people will say that a woman or a potential mother has the right to choose what she wants to do with her body, right? So the existing person who is there has the right to do whatever she wants to do with her body, and therefore it's her choice whether she will like to give birth to a baby or she will not like to give birth to a baby. So that's the pro-choice argument. So pro-life and pro-choice people usually have a long history of debating this topic, and the pro-life and the pro-choice people do not go hand in hand with each other. Now let us come to some facts about abortion. First thing, abortion is a very, very safe uh, thing, or a very, very safe medical practice. Less than 0.05 chance of major complications. So usually there is some information which is placed here and there that abortion is not safe and this and that. We'll come to that. Abortion is not safe, and what kind of basis or why it is not safe or why it turns out to be a complicated issue. But usually, if you go by the clinical understanding of it or the medical understanding of it, it's quite a safe procedure. Second, abortions performed in the first trimester pose virtually no long-term risk. So you must be knowing that there are three trimesters, right? Trimesters. So the first trimester of 3 months, the second trimester of 3 months, and the third trimester of 3 months. So in the first trimester, if suppose somebody goes for uh, abortion, then it is absolutely safe. There is no doubt about it. And there are a lot of medical studies which proves that. And many a times there is also this misgiving in the air that it is associated with breast cancer or any other kind of cancer, or people have mental health problems or mental trauma after abortion, or it is directly connected to abortion or something like that. But that has also been false, or it has been proved false by studies. And the last and the most important thing is the risk increases with the length of pregnancy. That means the later you go for abortion, the more difficult it gets and more complicated it gets. So the first trimester, definitely it's damn safe, but later on it becomes difficult, and sometimes it is absolutely impossible to abort. So those are some kind of facts which you should be knowing. Now, the big question is, are you in favor of it or against? What are your reasons for favoring it or for going against abortion? Third, whether you think that it's not a black or white issue, rather than it's a gray issue. It means that you can support abortion, you reject abortion, but then in different kind of cases. So what kind of cases it will be? be. And we also need to understand that there are some possible exceptions to uh, abortion, like medical complications and so on. So, apart from that, whether there can be other medical complications or so on. Now, if you see the information series on sexual and reproductive health rights, so they very clearly say that human rights bodies have provided clear guidance on the need to decriminalize abortion. Ensuring access to these services in accordance with human rights standards is part of state obligation to eliminate discrimination against women and to ensure women's right to health as well as other fundamental human rights. So they say that annually 25 million unsafe abortions are estimated to take place, precisely where there are no abortion rights, people go for it. And once they have chosen this way, so it's not very clinically proper, and because of that there is a risk of going into an unsafe abortion. Then each year about 7.9 of the maternal deaths can be attributed to unsafe abortion, and the most affected are women and girls living in poverty or belonging to marginalized groups. So this is also a discrimination which takes place in the whole of the world. Then almost all deaths from unsafe abortion occur in countries where abortion is severely restricted in law or in practice. So those countries where abortion is possible or abortion is legalized, the problems are very, very less. But countries and states where abortion is an illegal thing and people have to go for abortion, so they take certain means which are illegal, and because of that, a lot of deaths occur. Deaths due to unsafe abortion are entirely preventable. This is another important issue which we should understand, that if abortion is legalized, then as I told you that it's a very safe procedure and it can be very easily taken into consideration. But if it is not legalized, so it creates a lot of issues here and there. Countries with less restrictive abortion laws generally had lower abortion rates than countries with highly restrictive abortion laws. So this is also something which makes the whole story very clear, and this is something which we all have to ponder upon. But I will not go much over here, and we will take the Amnesty International stand. Or the Amnesty International says that it recognizes the right of every woman, girl, or person who can become pregnant to abortion, provided in a manner that respects their rights, autonomy, dignity, and needs in the context of their lived experiences, circumstances, aspirations, and views. Amnesty International's Amnesty International's abortion policy calls for full decriminalization of abortion and universal access to abortion, post abortion care, and evidence based, non biased abortion related information free of force, coercion, violence, and discrimination. So, this is the Amnesty International's policy or Amnesty International's stand on abortion, and they also want to say to the states and nations across the world that you have to legalize abortion. You cannot criminalize abortion or reject abortion in your country. Now, there are certain uh, findings, or there are certain things which has come, and these are very discordant beliefs and distant cries. Abortion is not a human right. This is what is being called by the European Parliament voted, and the European Parliament voted this week effectively shutting down a measure that would have pressed all 28 member states of European Union to provide the procedure on demand. The Parliament vote was 351 to 319. So they have passed this regulation that abortion is not a human right, not a human right for the woman who wants to abort. Some women group were quick to criticize, saying intense lobbying by the right-wing religious and political conservative shut the doors on what they perceived as an issue of gender equality. So it is more or less like those people who are empowered do not want abortion to get legalized, and because of that, they are pressing hard that it should not be called a human rights issue, and it is not something which these states should guarantee, right? So these are certain difference of opinions which you will find. even in developed countries. Now, certain moral considerations which we should understand. First, what is the moral status of the fetus? Is fetus a human being? When he or she becomes a human being, third trimester, second trimester, first trimester, or during conception? So this is the first question, our first important question which we need to answer. Second, whether the choice of the person is important. Because does an existing human being has the right to decide, or she loses the right as it involves her? So this is also a very important question because people who are pro-life will say that we want to have the right of the baby who is a potential human being, and somehow they surpass or bypass the rights of the existing human being, right? So that is also one of the question, that whether the person who is existing, or girl, the lady, whether she has the right or she loses the right if she's having another life inside her. Now, first thing, that we are not deciding on this issue, that whether abortion is morally right or wrong. Okay, it is not our concern in this course that whether we should go for an ethical or moral discourse on whether abortion is right or wrong, whether it should be practiced or not, and so on. Right now, what we are deciding is only whether it is legal or not, or whether it should be legal or not. So we should be very clear in our approach that we are not taking an ethical issue into consideration. We are more important in the legal discourse. Now, certain points to ponder upon. And this is where both the sides, the pro life and the pro choice people, are at loggerheads with each other. First thing, whether life starts at conception. And if life starts at conception, so whether that life or that upcoming life has to be respected, or whether its respect is dependent on the person who is bearing that life, right? So the pro life people will say that life starts at conception. The fetus is a potential human being, and her or his right has to be respected and should be given the right to come out and become a human being. On the other hand, the pro choice people will say that, irrespective of the fact that the fetus is a person, but the person who is bearing has more rights than the person who is coming out, and therefore it's the choice of the lady whether she should like to bring that baby into this world or not. Second question and second point, which is rallied and which is argued, is that it takes innocent lives and punishes innocent people. That means the baby, the unborn baby. And if you consider the unborn baby as a human being, then there is no way to defend this line. But on the other hand, the pro choice people do not consider it to be a baby, or always give primacy to the lady who is going to be the potential mother. Then this is another argument that mankind must protect life whenever possible. So this is another point which we need to understand, that mankind must protect life whenever possible, especially of innocent people, or people who are just coming up. And if you do not consider it to be alive, then this argument falls flat. But if you consider it to be alive and a human being, then this is a very strong argument to disperse. Then sometimes people also say that abortion is very unsafe, and there are a lot of data which proves it to be unsafe. But why it is unsafe? Because it is performed in an illegal way, then it becomes very unsafe. Uh, the way it is conducted is not very clinical by nature, and because of that, it turns out to be very unsafe. And there are also a lot of studies which will say that people have trauma, people have mental illness because of that, even if it has been proved wrong. But still, due to its unsafe nature, and a lot of people lose their life also while being aborted. Uh, it happens that many a times this tag is still there. It is also like compounding a tragedy. First, you lose or you do not bring a person to this world, and then it compounds the tragedy when you start thinking that, oh God, that was also my part, and I could not give her or him a life, and I'm living a life. Why I'm living this life? And it also turns out to be that people have ailments with that, and people do not recover from those things. Uh, we come to some slides and some photographs which will make you even more clearer what people go through after abortion. Many people charge that not giving birth to a baby is basically to avoid responsibility, because if you have a baby, then you have a lot of responsibilities and you are not ready to take that responsibility. You are a free bird. You do not want to live a responsible life, and you have your responsibilities of being an adult person, but you are still not ready to take it. And because of that, you are going for abortion. There is no other reason uh, because of which you are going for abortion. And many a times it is true that people want to avoid responsibility, and therefore they are charged with that. And many a times it is definitely not true. So, in one of the ways, this argument is also a very strong argument. And last argument, last line, and then we will follow this argument, that it is in no way empowering or liberating. Because many a times people think that women should have the right, they have the choice to go for abortion, and if they have the right to choose and go for abortion, or whether if they have the right to choose whether they will like to bring uh, the baby to this world or not, so it is their right, and women should be having these rights, and this is a way to empower or to liberate women from the shackles of paternity, or the shackles of patriarchy. But from a different point of view, why women want to come out of this, or why women want to not give birth to a baby? It is because of societal pressures. It is because the society sees them through those eyes. So if you are allowing uh, abortion, so you are also accepting patriarchy, that it is the women who is responsible for everything. Men can shy away, men can avoid the responsibility of the childbearing has to take. And if you want to live in this man's world, so better follow the rules and regulations of the society, or you go for abortion. So that argument is also a very strong argument. One argument: fetuses are both human and alive. Humans have the right to life, therefore fetuses have the right to live. So it's a simple syllogism, right? It's a Barbara, it's an AAA syllogism, and therefore it's a very strong argument. There is another argument. Of course, women have the right to control their own bodies, but the right to life overrides the right of a woman to control her own body. Therefore, abortion is wrong. So it's just the first argument only, but it is said in a very different way. And both of them say that abortion is something which shall not prevail in the society, and that is the conservationist ideology, as they say that it is a very conservative ideology. Now, J.J. Thomson and Jane Austen are people who have worked on these issues, and they came out with a very nice explanation. Like J.J. Thomson says, that imagine that you have been connected while sleeping, bloodstream bloodstream, to a famous violinist, right? The violinist who suffered from a rare blood disease will die if disconnected. Thomson argues that you surely have the right to disconnect yourself. She appeals to our intuition that having to lie in bed with a violinist for an indefinite period is too much of morality to demand. She supports this claim by noting that body being used in your body, not the violinist's body. She distinguishes the right to life, which the violinist clearly has, from the right to use someone else's body when necessary to preserve one's life, which is not at all obvious the violinist has. Now, what is the argument, if you understand? Like, suppose you are going somewhere and you have been hit on your head. And then when you wake up, you see that you have been attached to somebody, right? And that person's life is completely dependent on you. Now, this analogy is basically an analogy like it's an unintended pregnancy because your life is attached to somebody which you have not intended. Right? If it is a voluntary thing that you want to be attached to somebody so that that person can breathe and live, so it's a different issue. But this is an involuntary act. You have not uh, uh, volunteered for. So, given that whether we can allow that person to live with that person or to be connected to that person, so according to Thompson and people like them, they say that you are free to move out. There is absolutely nothing which stops you from doing it because it was unintended. It's not voluntary. It's completely involuntary. So if you see, most of these cases will be involuntary or unintended pregnancies we are talking about. So in these cases, they say that the woman should have the right to choose and get disconnected. Now, before we go further, let me come to two people who have written a very nice discourse on, and this discourse is called as the best pro-life arguments for secular audiences. It's Roos and Schwarzwalder who have written this piece, and I will not go through the whole of it because it's quite long and lengthy. But I will go through a few excerpts which will give you certain things to ponder upon. First thing which you must be knowing is that it's my body and my decision, right? So, my body and my decision is something which we have already talked about, or much of our discussion beforehand was about my body, my decision. The new human zygote has a genetic composition that is absolutely unique to itself, different from any other human that have ever existed, including that of its mother, thus disapproving the claim that what is involved in abortion is merely a woman. And now, by 16 weeks, a baby's fingers are already well developed. So you can see that, this is this is an unborn baby with around 16 weeks of existence. If the signs on when life begins is clear, why do some organizations claim that pregnancy doesn't begin until a week later at implantation? The answer is politics and profit. So you might be aware of a lot of arguments which are associated with that. If not, you can always read through and provide you a lot of material. But it is the truth that there is a big lie which is associated with all these things. Drugs that work after conception are not contraceptives. They are basically abortion drugs. So, in a way, also, a lot of people who are using contraceptives are not using contraceptives actually. They are killing, they are aborting. Now, this photograph was taken in 1999 during a pioneering surgical procedure at Vanderbilt University to correct the spina bifida lesion of Samuel Armas at just 21 weeks gestation. And this is the kid. Today, Samuel is an avid swimmer. Right? There is a very famous case of Roe and Wade, which says that, which in United States actually went on to say it, or say made certain cases of abortion legal. But there are certain readings of it, which I will like to bring upon. And the reading of it, which is very important for us to understand, is the Supreme Court created an absolute right to abortion under which any abortion can be justified. There is another point which we should understand. 92% of abortions in America are purely elective, done on healthy women to end the lives of healthy children. So it's not a medical complication. So this is also something which we should be very clear. Now, why women have abortions, if you have seen. So 25% of them are not ready for another child. So why I'm giving you this percentage, because then you will understand that how you have to frame your argument, because there are a lot of reasons for abortions, right? So out of that, 25% are not ready for another child, or the timing is wrong. 23% cannot afford a baby now. That means financial reasons. 19% have just completed childbearing. So this is also one of the things. 8% do not want to be because they are single mother or have relationship problems. 7% don't feel mature enough to raise another child or they feel too young. Then 6% uh, they say other. These are like other reasons, so they do not go on to state a reason. 4% will say that it will interfere with education or career plans. So this is 3% physical problem. They have physical problems with their health. 4%. 3% problems, possible problems affecting the health of the fetus. So basically, it's just 3% medical problems. Less than 0.5% husband or partner wants me to have an abortion. So this is one of the reasons, but that is very less. Then 0.5% also for parents want me to have an abortion. That means family members. Or less than also 0.5% don't want people to know that I had sex or got pregnant. So this is also one of the unstated reasons, as I was telling you. And last but not the least, only 0.5% or less are victims of rape. So once you are formulating a policy, you also need to understand the percentage of people. This is basically the data of United States, but mostly or commonly you will find around the same kind of data. But if you have a different data, so your rules and your policies can be also different. So that is where we have to start thinking, right? This is another testimony which I will like to bring upon. After presiding over more than 75,000 abortions, ultrasound technology convinced that Dr. Bernard Nathanson that he was actually killing human beings. Becoming a strong pro-life advocate, he went on to produce The Silent Scream, the book, and other videos and books for relief. So people have changed their point of view after they have gone through a lot on these cases. Now, this also is a very heart-touching picture. I regret my abortion. Like the first picture which you have seen, which said that my body, my choice, and this picture which says that I regret my abortion. And this is the picture of a child. Is this the face of the enemy? So you want to kill the baby, and this is the baby you could have killed. Another picture. It has burned a hole in my soul and changed me forever. Something inside dies after an abortion, right? Now, this is feminist for life argument. They say abortion is a reflection that we have not met the needs of women. And this is the argument, and this is a very strong argument which is used in this arena. You might be aware of that there is maternity leave these days. Maternity leave has been extended up to 6 months for a baby, and people sometimes find it very welcome proposal. But if you understand it from two perspectives, so you may have to rethink it. First is that if the maternity leave is increased by 6 months and one is taking maternity leave of 6 months, it precisely means that you are going 6 months back in your professional goals and career. Second, if you are provided with 6 months leave, so it is also understood by the society that childbearing and all is basically a subject matter of women and not the men associated with that. So that also is a very strong argument and also a way of societal jerk that the responsibility is yours, no matter what the other person is also involved. So those things also you need to think and take care of. Next, no woman should have to no woman should have to abort her child to participate fully in society. If a pregnant woman or mother can't participate in society, then the true feminist response is that something is wrong with the society, right? And this is the joy of having a baby, and it's really a joy. Now let us come back and start thinking that whether we need abortion or we do not need abortion. And this is a very intricate issue in anybody's life, especially the person who is planning to get aborted or abort the unintended or whoever baby, that whether they should go for abortion or not. And there are a lot of other issues which are associated with it as well. I will conclude this class by asking you to think again on many of us may have been an unintended kid of our families, and many of us were chosen to be the one who could breathe on this earth. Our parents not choose us. Life would have been so damn different, or there wouldn't have been life. So there is a need to rethink, and it's not a matter which is purely black or white, but is